Sounds good.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Getting Serious About SEO in 2022. My name is David Walker. I'm director of the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center. And a little bit about us. Zach's going to forward the slide there. There it is. We're a nonprofit organization, and we provide confidential, no-cost advisory and training services to small businesses. Our particular center is located in Shasta and Trinity counties in California, Northern California. In fact, we're closer to the Oregon border than we are to Sacramento. So we're in the far northern part of the state. But there's an SBDC near you if you're in the United States. There's nearly 1,000 centers across the country. They are all, to one degree or another, funded by the Small Business Administration. And in our case, we're also funded by the state of California. So you've already paid for our services with your tax dollars. So we encourage you to take advantage of them. Find the SBDC near you. If you have any questions about anything related to small business, and more than likely they'll be able to answer it. They'll be able to help you. A little bit more about our particular center. If you want to move the slide, Zach. This is 12 of our experts. One of them, as you can see, is a cartoon angel. Not in real life, but he won't give us a picture. But anyway, it's another story. We have experts here in Shasta and Trinity counties, and there's at least 40, actually a little more than that, additional subject matter experts scattered throughout Northern California. So the bottom line is, if you have a business issue or if you have a question about starting or operating your small business, more than likely we can find an expert to give you free advice. And we also have a lot of webinars, a lot of trainings that are available to you. Also, almost all of them are at no cost. So with that, I think we have a disclaimer we have to read. This is what happens when you get lawyers involved. I have to read this. I apologize. I'll go as fast as I can. It is actually a little important. You'll see that when you hear what we have to say here. The information provided in this webinar and any supplementary materials provided to registrants are intended for educational and informational purposes only, and does not constitute professional, financial, or legal advice. No registrant should act or fail to act on the basis of any material contained in this webinar without obtaining proper financial, legal, or other professional advice specific to their situation. The Northern California Small Business Development Center and its host, the Humboldt State University Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use and application of any of the information presented in this webinar. So with that out of the way, I think I'm going to turn it over to Zach Barton. He's going to be our presenter for today. So Zach, it's all yours. One other thing, if you have any questions during the webinar, put them in the chat. Zach has a couple of places where he'll take a breather and we'll field all your questions at that time. Okay, so Zach, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, David. Well, I don't want to camp out too long in this slide, but just so you know who you're hearing from today, my name is Zach Barton. Thanks so much for joining us. I have 19 years of professional experience under my belt in the areas of web design, development, marketing, branding. Ended up founding an agency called Barton Interactive in January of 2014. And I've had the privilege of serving clientele, including Eddie Bauer, Wet Seal, Wells Fargo, Vitamin Shop, T-Mobile, Ili Tahari, and other clients like that, but work with small and medium-sized businesses pretty often as well. So here's a very, very simple view of what our agenda is going to look like today. I think some of you guys are going to be really enjoying, maybe one of these. Some of you would probably enjoy both, but it's really going to be a two-parter. We're going to split it almost directly down the middle. The first half is going to be about local SEO. We're going to give you a general overview. For those unfamiliar, what is that? Does that actually matter in 2022 or not really? And then what would current practices be? And then the second half is going to be, I would say, non-local SEO. So that could be national and or international. Same thing, we'll give a general overview for those who aren't familiar yet. Why does that matter in 2022? And then we'll go through best practices, okay? So put your seatbelts on. Here we go. So, boy, what a weird couple of years it's been, I would say, in the world in general, but also in the world of SEO. It felt like things couldn't get any worse after 2020 with the global pandemic and everything, right? And then came 2021 last year, and Google rolled out a flurry of updates. Oh my goodness. And some of you may not know that. And Google really does make updates all the time to google.com, you know, their search engine. But boy, last year was a biggie. So we're going to cover some of what happened there. Most notably, in my humble opinion, they rolled out the major page experience update. And halfway through the year, they took direct aim at link spam, which sounds like, well, who cares? Isn't that a good thing? Yeah, it is. But it was, I would say, like a level 5, you know, earthquake in the world of SEO. It was a shocker, and really did change things quite a bit. And a lot of folks, I think, if they were to look at their analytics around that time, they very well could have seen a pretty big shift. So anyways, but you know, as we get into 2022, it is time to leave outdated SEO strategies behind, consider the road ahead. And so here are what I would consider to be the top trends that you need to know about for 2022 in local SEO and national or international SEO. So let's start with local SEO, okay? And so this is for the folks that serve in their local communities, their local geographic regions. Maybe you have a brick and mortar or multiple brick and mortars, and or you're on the road. You know, I always think of those the cleaning service cars that are zipping around town. They might not have a storefront anywhere, but boy, they are really serving the clients in their community left and right, maybe to within a 50-mile or however many mile radius, right? And so if that's you, I would say pay attention here. This should be pretty helpful, whether you're a beginner or intermediate, and I would even say advanced, and that would go for both parts of this webinar here. So if you're brand new to SEO, you might be wondering, what the heck is it? First of all, what are we even talking about here? You might not even know what that stands for. Well, maybe just look at the picture on the right. This is probably you here and there, right? You might be searching for something. You might be searching for a local business, and you see these local results popping up. So a definition to go along with that would be, it's all about increasing the search visibility for businesses that serve their communities face to face. They can be brick and mortar businesses with physical locations, or they can be service area business that operate in a certain geographic area, like an electrician or a house cleaning company. It can be, this can include everything from claiming a business listing to ensure a franchise location appears in a local search. It can extend to managing online ratings and reviews, local centric social media engagement, and beyond. It's not just limited to those things. That's just kind of in a nutshell. Okay, but this is what you would see, and I think it's a lot easier to see this than to hear it. If you just can picture this, you know, you have Google Maps up, or maybe you might search for something like a butcher, and boom, here comes Google, and here are the closest options, or here are the highest rated and reviewed options, right? So that's what we're talking about here. How do you show up for these? How do you rank higher for these, right? So is this important in 2022? What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is still important for 2022?
I do.
David does, and it looks like at least one person does. That's good. A couple of people chiming in, it looks like. Absolutely, it's important for 2022. Absolutely. And if you're like me, you're probably using local search, I don't know if I want to say every day, but quite often. Maybe you aren't using it every day. So if you're not quite sold yet, I'm going to share some stats with you, and that might, you know, push you off the fence to one side here. So these are all from the Search Engine Journal, which I would say is probably the leading publication in the industry. 50% of people who did a local search on their phone went to a physical store within one day. 34% who did their search on a computer or tablet did the same. 18% of local mobile searches led to a sale within one day. These are all very significant. 60% of American adults conduct searches For local services or product information on tablets and smartphones, 50% of searchers on their mobile phones who conduct local searches are looking for things like a local business address. 78% of local-based searches on a mobile device end in purchases being made offline. That's very interesting to me. 71% of people who have been surveyed have said they search for a location of a business in order to confirm its existence before going there. I know I do this one all the time or something similar. My family and I might be going to a restaurant, but we don't want to drive 20 minutes if they're not even open. We don't know what's going on with their hours and their staff these days. So we're going to Google it really quick. So that's very helpful. We would fall into that category. Just a couple more, but 1 in 3 searches on a smartphone were conducted just before arriving at a store. So it kind of goes along with what I just said. Last one that we have here, 90% of consumers looked online for local businesses in 2017, with 12% looking for a local business online every day. Oh my goodness. One last one that comes to mind would be, it was a couple years ago, Google said 4 out of 5 times someone searches for, wants to engage with a new business, they're gonna start by doing a search online. And boy, don't you want to be found for those searches? I know that I do. So the question here would be, so we know what local SEO is, we know why it's important, but how do we actually compete with the other businesses? So the answer here would be by understanding Google's ranking signals and working to accommodate as much as possible. So there are things that you can do to make your business show up in those results, and there are things that you can do to climb past competitors in those results. And hey, if we can know that, wouldn't we be better off? So we're going to go over the top 25 ranking signals for local SEO right now. And we're going to have to go kind of fast through these because we're covering a lot of stuff here. But some of these you might not have done, or maybe all of them if you're brand new to this. But we're going to start basic and end more in the advanced end, okay? First things first, are you on Google My Business yet? And by the way, they just changed their name to Google Business Profile, but I didn't update these slides, so I just have it as Google My Business, so forgive me for that. But so if you haven't claimed your Google My Business or Google Business Profile page, you got to start there. You just have to. It takes minutes, and it's free. And if you want to, if I'm speaking Greek to you already, you can check out our past webinars on the SBDC SC YouTube page, and we have 1 or 2 webinars specific to how to do this. You can also just do a Google search for Google My Business or Google Business Profile, and Google will also share some steps to try to walk you through it. So absolutely got to start there. And then hopefully you're going to end up with something that more looks like this listing on the right. And I'm not sure if do we have any Black Bear Diner fans in here? If so, let me know. And if not, that's okay. At least one, David's shaking his head. You don't want to be the business on the left. It's unclaimed. Boy, their reviews, not real hot, right? Their photos, yikes, not good. Okay, we got some Black Bear Diner fans, good. So I gave this one on the left a cringe face. The one on the right gets definitely a passing grade. Good job, Black Bear Diner. They filled all the fields out. They're doing it right. And I'm sure that they're getting plenty of traffic for it. I'm sure that's helping them out. But number 2, Google My Business categories. This is an easy one. So once you set up your Google My Business account, make sure that you have the correct categories set up. You don't want to skip that step. And studies show the fewer the better. So instead of trying to tick 20 boxes because you're allowed to, try to just pick the ones that apply the most. Number 3, right along those lines, photos on the Google My Business page. I know I already mentioned it briefly, but take photos of your business and your products and your staff, and maybe even your customers if they give you permission. Those are going to help humans and search engines. And we don't want to just exclude the humans here, right? I mean, I think we want to aim mostly for pleasing the humans, and then there will also be an SEO benefit. That would be a great mindset going into this. But what photos are going to make your business look great? to actual human beings that are finding you on their phone or on their tablet or desktop device. That's going to lend credibility, especially if those are done, pretty nicely. So going back to that last example, they don't have any photos on this example on the left. So all we have is the photos that are default. Google, their car that drives around, that's what they took pictures of. But boy, that's not really selling me as a potential client. But on the right, boy, if I'm in the mood for a big greasy plate of burger and fries, that's kind of drawing me in, So you want to be over here, not here. Being places for business. I think this is often neglected, but this is kind of like the equivalent to what Google has for Google My Business. Bing, they have somewhere around 33% of searchers still. So, hey, you might as well take a few more minutes and claim your free Bing Places account. Okay, and then you can follow pretty similar steps over there. Number 5, online directories and citations. Make sure you have claimed your business on other online directories. So some examples would be Apple Maps, Yellow Pages, Foursquare, Yahoo's Local Works. That one's, I think that's changed fairly recently, so I would need to look into that one. But here are some examples. You can claim your business on Apple Maps. Take a look at that on the left. Here's an example of someone claiming their business on the Yellow Pages on the right. You want to show up for these because sometimes people are searching directly in those apps or websites for something, and you don't want to be left out just because you didn't take 5, 10, 20 minutes to do a nice job with these little profiles, right? Number 6, listings on review sites. So kind of similar to that last one, but a little bit different. You want to make sure you're on sites that are review sites. Popular examples would be Yelp, Angie's List, Glassdoor, Better Business Bureau. And then don't forget Google itself. Google My Business, your business can of course get reviews and ratings. Those carry a lot of weight. We're going to get more into that soon. Number 7, the number of positive reviews. So now this is pertaining specifically to your Google My Business profile. So after you have your business claimed, you want to be making sure that the majority of your reviews, or all of them, are positive. So according to Google, high quality reviews do improve your business's visibility. So you want to keep in mind that it is against their policy to ask people for reviews in exchange for something or setting up review stations. That doesn't mean you can't ask. It just means their terms of service say, please don't give them something. But I know I'm personally not afraid to ask, and I think that's a wonderful thing. It's very, very helpful. This is not only good for search engines, but it's good for humans. And think about it, and here's an example. I love using these, but let's say you go to Reading for the first time, you've never had a cheeseburger, you're from a country that just doesn't have them, and you just don't happen to have someone with you to say, hey, here's the best cheeseburger in town. So you go to Google and you see these 3 examples. You see the Habit Burger, you see Five Guys, you see In-N-Out. And I apologize for attendees who've already seen me go through this example, but I like it a lot and I think it's effective. But let's just look at these. Which one would you pick? In-N-Out Burger has 4.6 stars, almost 4,000 reviews. That's pretty good. Five Guys has 4.3 stars, 464 reviews. And Habit has 4.5 stars, about 1,000 reviews. So I'm going to toggle back and forth through these for about 30 seconds, but chime in and let me know what you would pick if you've never tasted any of these burgers before. I'm glad to see that you guys are awake and actually answering correctly. Yeah, so In-N-Out, I know a lot of people like to answer with funny things at this point. Yeah, the one with the most stars and the one with the most reviews absolutely is In-N-Out. Now, do you think that these businesses are paying attention to these numbers? And feel free to chime in with that. I think they probably are, at least to some degree, but if they're not, yikes. I don't think that's helping them. They could be losing out on those people that are actually relying on these reviews and ratings. I think a lot of people are. People even from another state, forget another country, another state coming to Reading, looking for a good burger, they might not have tried any of these options, right? So anywho, okay, number 8, reviews with keywords and location. So you're doing good, you're getting reviews, but what kind of language is inside of those reviews? So according to a study by Local SEO Guide, when reviewers use the city or keywords, it sends signals to Google that you're a trusted local business. Isn't that interesting? So if someone just says, great work in your review, well, that's a lot better than nothing. But if they said, hey, this is the best cleaning service in Redding, California, hands down, that's going to get you some points with Google. Pretty interesting. Reviews with responses. So the same Local SEO Guide study mentioned in that last slide showed that the number of reviews with a response also contributed to local SEO. So here's an example of that. Someone leaves a review. Here's a bike shop in Reading, and the owner responds, good job, good job. So that's sending a response to Google saying, hey, we're here, we're paying attention, we care about our customers. And Google goes, oh, great, good job. We're gonna make sure you're still showing up for these local search results. Okay, number 10, percentage of negative reviews not responded to. Now, most businesses that have been around for a long time, there's a chance that they're gonna get a negative review every once in a while, or at least something that's not totally perfect, and that's just reality. But if Google sees that and you're just not responding, that's not sending good signals to Google. If that does happen to you, there are great ways to respond to people. Obviously, a flippant or vengeful response would probably not. That's definitely not what we would ever recommend. But some kind of kind professional response would be great. Something that's well thought out, and make sure that you're responding, because if you don't, Google does see that, and that's sending negative signals. Number 11, most of you have probably already done this, but create a Facebook business page. Believe it or not, and I was just having this conversation with somebody yesterday or the day before, a lot of people actually use Facebook as a search engine. Isn't that weird? I mean, to some of you, you're like, no, that's not weird. That's me every day. It depends on who you're talking to. I know I wouldn't use it as a search engine, but I just talked to someone within the last 24 hours that absolutely does. And so nobody's right or wrong here. That's just, personal preference. So create a business page on Facebook. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And just make sure you update it with your business, your hours, your website, a description. And those are, it'll send signals, and that could be helpful to Google, but it's also helpful in the sense of social SEO. What is that? Well, if someone is searching on a social media site, you want to show up in the results. That's all. Here's an example. And I mean, enough said. You guys have seen Facebook business pages, and make sure you're not setting it up as a profile. It should be a business page. Okay, number 12, social listings. So other social sites, not just Facebook, but Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, those kind of sites. Even if you don't plan to be real active on those sites, claim those listings. Even if you're not going to be around, you can do things like pin a tweet, or just leave a post and let people know, hey, come follow us over at this other social media platform where we actually are active. And know that people do actually expect a fast response. So be sure you're leaving your contact info so people aren't sending you a message on that platform and then just hearing nothing back. That happened to me 1 or 2 weeks ago. I was trying to engage with another business for a client. I just could not get a hold of this business. I couldn't, there was no phone number. I couldn't email. I tried Facebook Messenger, thinking surely someone's going to get a ding on their phone. Nothing. They never responded. But finally, someone on LinkedIn, after 2 or 3 attempts and about a month later, finally got back to me. Don't do that. That's not going to help you, of course. Number 13, consistent nap. All right, I almost want to drop, I'm a dad, so I kind of want to drop some kind of dad joke in here about naps. It's just a weird term. It's an SEO term. You may or may not be familiar with it. All it stands for is name, address, phone number. So why do we need consistent name, address, phone numbers? Here's why. Google wants to know that the information that they're sharing with people that go to Google is the right information. And so if your business has inconsistent name, address, phone numbers on different websites like Facebook or wherever else, that doesn't send good signals to Google. You want them to be nice and synced up. You want to get as many of those naps out there, by the way, and we'll get to that in a minute. And that's called citations. We'll talk about that very soon. But even like this, with this Yelp example here, so yeah, even right above citation. So it's name, address, phone number. Well, what do we have here? This is in Toronto. Here's their address. There's their phone number. Even this is helpful in that regard, believe it or not. Okay, so you want to have consistent name, address, phone number. We've already kind of covered that, but just as a quick example, you don't want to have this business name in one place and then this business name in another. You want to keep them nice and consistent. Mobile responsiveness. Nowadays, I almost don't want to cover this because I would believe that most or all of your websites are already responsive, but there's a chance that they're not. So you may not be aware of this, but Google, when they're indexing websites, in other words, when they're taking websites and putting them in their search results, they're now doing that mobile first, meaning in the last year or two, Google said, oh, the majority of websites are viewed on mobile devices. Well, we better make sure that when we're indexing websites that they actually look good on mobile devices, because why do we want to show search results if people can't use what they're clicking on? So now they're going through when they're in, obviously it's not a bunch of humans sitting around on their phones, but when they're going through and indexing, they're actually doing that from mobile devices. So Google's looking at your website mobile first, not desktop first. So you're probably already on top of this. It's 2022, but if you're not, yes, it's time. Your website should be mobile friendly now. If you're not sure, honestly, I almost want to say just ask someone, just pull up a phone and look at it. Does it look right? Does it function properly? But if you want a more granular answer, and if you really want to know straight from the horse's mouth, does this pass Google's test? Well, you're in luck, because Google has a free test called the Google Mobile Friendliness Test. And hopefully you won't leave this webinar and go start horsing around with that right now. Maybe you can just take a screenshot or something, but you can go just open up a browser, type Google Mobile Friendliness Test, and then they'll say, okay, what's your website address? Take a few minutes to scan your site, and they will give you a lot of information. You can also obtain that information if you have Google Search Console, by the way. Okay, number 15. This is going to be the first one where I say this would probably fall into the advanced category, structured data markup. So I'm just going to give you a quick example before I give you the definition of what that even is, because if you see it, then you're going to go, look on the left. And I know that we have a red box over here because that's a local listing, but look on the left, you can see these stars here. Now that's not a normal part of a search result. And here's another one. You see these little links under this one. And look down here and you can see these questions that are underneath this. Okay, why are those added little features, why are those showing up? Well, it's because of this thing called structured data. It's a little bit of additional data that your website, should you choose to, you can feed it to search engines, and it's going to go, oh, okay, you're telling us what the reviews and ratings are. Okay, we're going to show that under your website. Now, why does that matter? Why would that be helpful? Well, it's helpful because if Google does see that and they decide, you know what, we are going to go ahead and use that, then you're probably going to get more clicks than the search results that surround you that don't happen to have those. If you're the only one that has 5 gold stars underneath your search result, that's going to make you stand out. Or other ones that you might have seen are like recipes. They might show a thumbnail image to the left of the text. I don't know about you, but that's immediately where my eyes are going to go, right? Instead of looking, well, no, I don't want to look at those. I want to go down below to look at the ones that are just only text. Nobody probably says that. So this is advanced. But it's not super difficult. It's just, I just wouldn't put it in the beginner category, but it's something you can do that Google would smile upon, and that would help you in the search engines, of course. So you can add, there's different ways to do that. Whenever I mention this in a webinar, people go, I want to do that. How do I do it? And the answer, unfortunately, is it depends. Now, why would I say that? Well, because you're all using different platforms for your website. You know, one of you might be on WordPress, somebody else is on Squarespace, somebody else is on Shopify. And I'm not going to say one's better than the other or anything like that. I'm just going to say that they each have their own approaches to adding structured data in. Okay. So if you wanted to, we can talk about that later, or you can email a question, or if we, you know, when you do questions and answers, we might be able to talk about it a little bit more. But usually it's something where I'm going to encourage you to say, why don't you just Google and see what your options are for the platform that you're on, would be the short answer. Okay. Okay. Click-through rates from search results. Advanced? I don't think I would really call it advanced. It's more like, are you capable of, and do you know where to look for that data and see how you're doing? So if someone goes to your site from a search engine, they go, ooh, I'm out of here, I don't like this, and they leave, that's not good. Well, actually, that would be a bounce, but a click-through rate would be, you show up in the search results, they don't even click you. They're just not even gonna click it. They see the result and they just keep moving. So if you have bad click-through rates, well, that's not gonna help you with local SEO either. So this would be a good thing for SEO and local SEO. It kind of is probably a little bit advanced, but it's not rocket science or anything. Localized content. This is kind of tricky, but if you can be publishing content that organically happens to mention, you know, keywords and your geolocation, that's going to help you. For example, if you have a blog on your site, and I don't believe everybody needs a blog on their site, but if you do, and there happens to be a local event and you happen to mention the city that your business is in, or you're on another website that's in the same town and they're mentioning your business, that's awesome. That is very good very good for local SEO. 18, on-page location and keyword optimization. So this, very similar to that, but you know, if you're an HVAC company and you know, you might have air conditioning repair on your site, well, if you can somehow put your geolocation in there, especially if you're just servicing one town or area, that's going to help you with local SEO. This one I would put in the intermediate category, because some of you are going to go, what does that mean? Your title tag and your meta tag. Some of you here are probably laughing, like that is so basic, but others here are like, that sounds like Greek to me. So those are basic HTML tags that every web page probably should have. But the reason why these matter is when you fill those out, that's the text that you see. The title tag shows up in the browser tab, but it also shows up as the blue text in the search results. So if you take zero time to be intentional with that, and you have some kind of dumpy looking title tag, yeah, that's not really going to help your click-through rate. People are probably going to want to click on something that is hard to understand or misworded, or you know, things like that. And the meta description is the descriptive text right below that blue link in the search results. Okay, so that's why you want to take time to fill those out, do a good job. And there are best practices that we're not going to cover today with that, but you can Google it. You can say, what are Google's best practices for title tag and meta description? That would be better than a lot of websites are doing right there, if you can even do that. Here's an example, the blue text right here, that's actually their title tag, and the text below, that's actually their meta description. And if they never entered it in, well, Google just usually will say, we're just going to bring in the text that's the first text on the page right here. So, okay, high quality inbound links. Well, what does that mean? We're just talking about links from other websites that point to your site. So if your website has high quality links from other sites pointing back to it, that's good for SEO. That's also good for local SEO. Okay. Number 21, very similar, but if you can be getting high quality links from just different kinds of websites, that's going to be really helpful. Get a good range of links. Studies show that that's really helpful. You don't want them all, for example, to just be from social media, or you don't want them all to be from one specific type of website if you can. Number 22, inbound links from local relevant sites. And some of these are a little bit, there's some overlap, and that's okay. But links from local news sites or community blogs or so forth, that's going to be helpful to you in the area of local SEO. It's going to give Google signals that you are trusted by your neighbors. Okay, and here's a snapshot. All these screenshots are ours. You know, we took this recently, and this is some of the SEO software that we use. This is called Ahrefs, or some people would say Ahrefs. There's a big debate on how do you pronounce it. But anyways, but you can, if you look closely, you can see in their title tags, you know, they have, here's Reading here and what they are, but they also, these are also good links back to this website, feastcoffee.com, from local Reading websites. So this is great for local SEO. Number 23, and we only have a couple more of these local SEO tips left, and then we'll pause, okay? But inbound using local and keyword in anchor text. So this is kind of similar, and some of you are probably scratching your head because it's like, wait, didn't you just say that? It's very similar, but if you're getting a link back from another website, and this happens to say, let's say you're a mechanic in Reading, happens to say, and this Reading mechanic, and that text is clickable, that's the link that points to your site. Oh boy, that's you know, some say the holy grail of backlinks, because it's giving you credit for the keyword of what your business does and the geolocation, and you're getting a backlink. So boy, that is fantastic if you can somehow get that. Why is that advanced? Well, it's not that it's that difficult. It's not that it's that technical or complicated, I should say, but it can be challenging to get those backlinks. I mean, you really got to be intentional of going after those. Number 24, proximity to the searcher. So this is one that you really honestly can't control, but it's just super important to mention. If I'm driving by a McDonald's and I have in Google is aware of my location, and I'm Googling fast food near me, and McDonald's is, you know, right next to me, it's probably going to pull up McDonald's first. The proximity is just a huge ranking factor. So that's probably not a big surprise, but know that that's a factor. And so you could be doing some of these other things really well, but if someone's 10 feet away from something, it might beat you out, okay? Domain authority of your website. So this is the last local SEO ranking factor / tip, and a bit of a repeat, but according to Moz, which is one of the biggest companies in SEO, domain authority, and I'll tell you what that is in a second, that ranks 6th in the top 50 local pack finder factors. So in other words, that's a very strong signal. And authority, people would say, is just the strength of your company's backlink profile. So in other words, the strength of all of the different sites, the quality and quantity of the sites that are linking back to yours. How strong is that? Do you have 5 other sites pointing back to yours? And I'm talking legit sites, relevant sites, real sites, not like you bought 100 links somewhere and it's illegal and you did it anyway. No, that's not going to help you. That's going to hurt you. But I'm talking about real legit links. You know, like you happen to get in an article on visitreading.com, or you happen to be mentioned on the Theory Coffee Shop blog because they just partnered up with you or something like that, and they're real backlinks. That's going to help you. The more, the better, not only for local SEO, but for SEO in general. In SEO in general, studies show that that's actually the #1 ranking factor. So if you're going to just walk away with one thing, this might be the thing that you want to walk away with. You want high quality backlinks, not garbage ones, high quality ones, okay? So before we get into non-local SEO, national and or international, let's pause for a moment. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to drink something, and then we'll maybe take a question or two if we have any yet, okay?
Okay, I don't see any questions yet, but breathe. Take a drink. Is Google My Business still only for a physical location?
Great question.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Love it. Boy, if it was 2017, I would say, unfortunately, yes. But I think it was 2018 or so when they said, you know what? You don't have to have a physical location anymore. We understand that you can still be a legit business that just doesn't happen to have a brick and mortar somewhere. So as long as you can at least give us an address, we're okay. But they don't want a PO box address, and they also don't, and they probably wouldn't know, but they don't want you to use like a mailboxes, etc., kind of a rented address. If you can give them a real address, you can choose to hide it in your Google My Business profile.
Good. Any tips for where to get quality backlinks other than social media? Maybe how to get articles written about the business.
Ooh, that's a great question, and I feel like we won't, but we could spend 2 hours on that question. Here are the top 10 ways to do that. That would be a really good webinar. There are a lot of ways to do that. People use different tactics to do that, but I would say that I'll just give you a couple of the most popular just to try to give you an answer within, less than 60 seconds here. One would be coming out with really, really high quality content. And I'm not talking about like just some fluff, you copied some other website. No, I'm talking about figuring out what your customers are really wanting to know and doing it, answering it better than anybody. I mean, doing it really, really, really well and pushing that out there to social media. If you do that, I mean, if you come out with those really, really nice articles, odds are people are going to start to link back to you organically. I know that's a lot of work, and that isn't probably a super fun answer for people to hear, but that's the truth. And that's probably the number one answer. There are other ways though. There are tools to use, like, you saw a screenshot of one of the SEO tools we use. You can use tools like that to find broken links in your niche or your industry. And you can reach out to those people with an email and say, hey, love your article. Happen to notice that you have a broken link. Check out our website. We would love for you to consider linking to our site in place of that broken link. Aren't you thankful that we showed you that broken link? You can fix it and point to our, there are so many different strategies. There's another one, there's a tool. Here's another one called BuzzSumo. And there's silly names all over the place, right? But BuzzSumo, they do a bunch of things great, but one of them is they scan the web for instances of your brand that are where your brand is mentioned but not linked to. We used that quite a bit for a client and actually ended up getting a backlink from the channel on the cable channel, with the exclamation point. They mentioned our client and they didn't link back. So I wrote a really nice email to E and said, we really love your article and we're so thankful that you mentioned our brand. Is there any way you might be able to link to us too? Within a day or two, yeah, no problem at all. And we got a backlink from E. And yes, that moves the needle. So, but there are a lot of other ways to do it. Those are a couple of the more popular ones, but you can either reach out or you can look up best ways to get good backlinks, that kind of thing. Probably have time for one more.
We have, my website is responsive, but the Google console shows me that my website has some issues with responsive functions. How to fix them, and is this an important fix for Google search results?
Yes. So note that in Google Search Console, it's probably not a human being that's going, hey, this website isn't responsive. So it's probably Google automatically detecting that. We see these kind of false flags quite often because there's just not enough staff at Google to go looking at every single web page in the universe. Like, that's just, they're not that big. So they have a lot of these things automated. So what you can do in Google Search Console is, if you really think that that's not correct, you can request a recrawl or let them know that you've repaired it, and you can see if that gets any better. Another thing you can do too is have a developer look at it, like a really good developer, and have them take a look and see, like, hey, what are you seeing? Is there anything legit to this? So is there one last one before we transition?
Let's do one more. Okay. I'll just read it. I'm a former content developer / content specialist who wrote long form content. Any recommendations for resources to tracking keywords, and any recommendations in terms of article length? So resources for tracking keywords, I
Oh,
think, would be.
I love it. This is, you know, so nerdy, I know, but I get so excited about this kind of stuff, David. Ooh, yes. So way to go, Elizabeth, on writing long form content. That's awesome already. And then recommendations, absolutely. I would say our favorite, the agency that I'm with, our favorite is Ahrefs. So that's ahrefs.com. No official affiliation or anything. No, I'm not going to get anything out of saying that. That's just the one that we happen to like the most. You can create a connection in your dashboard to a website and enter the keywords that you're tracking, and it'll do a really good job letting you know as often as you want how those are performing in the search results. And also, hey, is this one harder to, is this one have more going on in the search results pages with lots of ads surrounding it and lots of rich search results surrounding it that's going to kind of push it down and that kind of thing. Okay, Denise has a question. That's Ahrefs, ahrefs.com. Thanks, David. And then the last question there from Elizabeth was, sure, was any recommendations in terms of article length? This is one of those things that's going to be depends on who you talk to, who you look to. I don't know that there's going to be a you know, an official answer to this, so please take this with a grain of salt. But I will say that the biggest names in SEO out there, you know, like we're talking Moz, Ahrefs, Search Engine Journal. I mean, they're going to probably encourage you to go for 2,000 words or more, or 5,000 words or more. My personal gut reaction to that question would be this. So it depends on what you're writing about and what other people already have out there. So let's say you're writing an article on LaCroix, on black raspberry LaCroix. For some reason, that's what you're going for. Look to see who else is already going for that that topic and how good of a job are they doing, because you might only need to do a 500 word on that, and you might be the only one who's written an article on that specific flavor, and boom, now you're getting all those searches on black whatever I said LaCroix. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But okay. But if you're writing a blog about Nikes, you know, that, you know, you're gonna need a little bit more than 500 words. So, all right. So we'll keep moving here. Thanks so much for your questions. That's that was fun and good. Glad it made sense. Okay, so here we go. So take your local SEO hat off, and then put your non-local SEO hat on, and we're going to kind of transition mentally here. So the second half of this is going to be, you know, national or international SEO. I keep wrestling with, do I say national or international? Because some of you are going to go, yeah, no, we want to compete nationally. Some of you say, no, just in the state, or some of you say, no, all over the world, everybody. I hear it all. And so if you're any of those, this is for you. If somehow you still don't know what SEO stands for, you're in luck. We're going to cover that with a quick definition before we dive in. I really like this Wikipedia definition because it's thorough. It's not like layman's terms. It's not a very casual definition, but it's nice and thorough. So SEO, search engine optimization, is the process of increasing the quality and quantity of website traffic by increasing the visibility of a website or web page to users of a web search engine. I would never say that at a party. Here's what I probably would say at a party. Here's the Ahrefs definition. SEO is the practice of growing a website's traffic from organic search results. So in other words, not paid traffic, not paid ads. It involves things like keyword research, content creation, link building, and technical audits and stuff like that. That's probably what I would say in an informal setting. So why is SEO important in 2022? So for local SEO, I said, why is it important for 2022? And I gave you Search Engine Journal, a bunch of bullet point data, right? I'm not going to do that for this one. I thought, hey, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to share from my heart. Again, we'll say I'm at a Christmas party and someone's like, hey, Zach, so is SEO still important in 2022? This is the kind of parties that I would be at, I guess. Then I would say, here's what I would say, okay? I honestly would probably say something like this. I just wrote this a few days ago, but so here are the number of Google searches every day. Right now, 5.6 billion, right? That's a lot of searches. And there are things that can be done so your website appears in those searches. There are things that can be done so your website ranks higher in those search results. And there are things that can be done or neglected where your website falls in those rankings. And so, you know, and we see a lot of updates happening with Google. And if you're not paying attention and your competitors are, or if you're just following old irrelevant trends, like keyword stuffing or buying links, you could be getting passed up, you could be wasting time, you could even be harming your business's SEO. So meanwhile, your competitors are potentially doing amazing SEO and you're not, or you're doing it wrong. And yeah, you could be getting passed up. They're getting clicks and you're not. So yeah, that's why it's important in 2022. So now that we know what SEO is and why it's important, what can we do about it? How can we actually compete with other businesses? And this is a really similar answer to what I had the first time around in local SEO. Yes, by understanding Google's ranking signals and working to accommodate as much as possible within reason. Here's the catch. There are a lot of ranking factors and they are changing often, okay? And some studies show, really good studies, very thorough ones, show that there are over 200 ranking factors. Now that's debatable, but there are a lot of ranking factors that have come out from studies, and a lot of them that Google's just specifically said, hey, this is really important. This is part of our algorithm, know that, okay? So we're gonna cover what we're seeing in, and here are a bunch of SEO factors in general. And this was inspired by something I saw on SEMrush, another great SEO company. But these are some of the biggest things in SEO. But yeah, they're changing all the time. So we're about to cover what are some of the biggest ranking factors in 2022 for non-local SEO, just website SEO in general. These are all important, but what's changing? What's going on between 2021, 2022? There's big changes that have just taken place. What are they? What's important right now? I'm going to share my take on that, and I'm going to share the take of a handful of industry experts that I thought you should probably hear what they have to say too, because it's really important. Okay, so if I haven't already said it, I think I said it a couple of times now, the SEO landscape, it's changing. And here's the reason for that. So this is the global SEO lead for Uber. She says, hey, despite the pandemic, Google has been hard at work. Changes in the Google algorithm, they didn't lighten up. They're only increasing in velocity. Here's this gentleman said, we've always known that Google chases the searcher. Providing best-in-class search results is the core of their entire business. So that's why it's changing. It's not because they're trying to go, let's really mess with everybody and change things again. I don't think that's why they're doing it. I hope. But what they are trying to do is they're trying to please their customer, right? And who can blame them? So it's up to our job, either as SEO professionals or as site owners who care about SEO, and to try to pay attention at least a little bit, right? So here's one example of something that's changed. In 2022, images now are a huge thing in SEO. So the founder of Search Engine Journal had this to say in regards to the use of stock photos being set to decline now. They said sites with unique images are going to see a large boost in image, product, and normal search. There's also a user behavior intent reaction as younger users identify to resonate with unique lifestyle images and can instantly tell if something is real or staged. I don't consider myself a younger user. I'm sure to some people I am. I'm 40, but boy, if I go to a site and there's stock photos everywhere, that's an instant turnoff to me. I'm probably not your average internet user, but I think a lot of people would say, that's not authentic. So not really good for humans. If you can get real photos, that's better. But now images are a huge thing in SEO too. There's image search, there's products, normal search, I believe is starting to bring in images as well. So really important. And then one other thing, and we'll see if we cover it here. Okay, I don't want to spoil it. We'll read it here and then I'll share it if we don't cover it here. But they continue to say, bigger image blocks are displayed in the results from some queries. The boon of good image assets isn't limited to the search engine results pages. Google Lens, this is a new thing with Google, will enable shoppers to look for a product using a photo on their device or found on a website, essentially reverse image search with a solid use case for image optimization. So with that said, it would be wise for website owners to be more intentional with the photos they're using on their websites. If possible, use original photos rather than stock photos. It's just one of those things that's helpful nowadays. Here's a local, has anybody been here? I'll pause and take a breath and give you a chance to answer. Has anybody been to this Chain Gang bike shop?
I haven't, but we have well, look at that, Natalia has. But we do have a question related to what you're talking about here, Zach.
Yeah.
So it's good for you to take a pause here.
Yeah.
Elizabeth's asking, what would you tell clients who do not want to pay for custom photography and want to lean more into stock photography?
Well, I think that that's an excellent question. And I honestly face the same thing. Sometimes we're working with people and they say, sorry, we just don't have any of our own photos. What do other people do? Can we just get stock photos? Well, yes, that's cheaper now, but what's the real goal here? Is the goal for you to get more traffic? Is the goal here for the traffic to convert into leads and customers better? Well, if so, then having a photo shoot would actually be the way to go. So I almost would say, look into the things that I just mentioned. You might want to share like, hey, check this out. Here are 3 reasons why I at least want to push back a slight bit. And you're the boss, you're the client, but I don't want to be neglectful either. This is really important in my professional opinion. And here are 3 sources that will really back that up. It's still your choice, but I just want you to know. I would probably say it's something like that. And yeah, sometimes that's going to just be a losing battle. But sometimes you're going to talk to someone and they go, you know what, you're the professional. That's why I hired you. You know what you're talking about. I don't. So let's do it your way. And you're going to go, oh, sweet. Okay. And the site's going to look better. It'll convert better. And it'll do better with SEO. Okay. Here's another nice photo. Now I go here as a user to this website and I'm instantly happy that they actually took this picture instead of using a stock photo. It instantly makes me happy. Is that going to help their website? Yeah, probably. Especially if every user goes there and thinks that. Here's another local business theory. I'm sure a bunch of you have been there. David's giving a thumbs up. It's not far from the office. Lots of photos that they took themselves. They're not even fancy. These are probably with somebody's cell phone, but they're authentic. They're original. And users will value that and Google will value that. So here's another kind of ranking factor / update and it's the basics of high quality content. Super important. And the reason why this is even being mentioned is I think that in the world of SEO there was such a rush, like this wave for years to just jam out as many blog posts as possible. We got to keep cranking these blog posts out like it's a factory. Like we're just doing it for a robot somewhere. Like there's some robot god sitting there and go, keep feeding me these fluffy blog posts that are not helpful. Oy. So that's why I need to stress this, and that's why other people in the SEO industry are saying, hey, pay attention to this. You can actually stand out from all those businesses you're competing with because they might not be doing this, actually creating high quality content. This is not only helpful for users, but it's actually helpful for search engines as well. So this gal says this, she's an SEO professional. She says, rather than adding hundreds of pages of generic content to the site, research the overall interests of the target audience, organize those, prioritize them in relevance to the business goals. Focus on the information that's uniquely different from others and highlight your specialty in that area. I love that. I think that's excellent. Another SEO professional says in that regard, says, Google has said in the past that you should be making sure that your published pages should be fantastic. And they do. They use these words like awesome and fantastic. Really, the spokesperson for Google says it? Yeah, they actually do. Listen to some interviews. They'll say it. They want the stuff that you come out with to be A++. And so instead of trying to just jam out tons of posts with fluff that are not helpful, really try to come up with some really good stuff. And that's actually going to help your business a lot more. Here's another one. Everything should be focused on the business and customer needs, not robots. With this in mind, businesses should focus on having the best platforms, whether that's, if it's e-commerce, is it Shopify or is it something else? For things like DNS, we use Cloudflare or something else, accessibility tools. He's saying SEO professionals should take control and work in coherence with another team, make sure things like architecture, coding, security, accessibility, user interface, that kind of stuff, it all kind of goes hand in hand nowadays. And I feel like I'll probably be stepping on toes as I say that, but SEO, it's no longer just about driving traffic. It really is quite, there is a lot of overlap with those other areas of the website. Just a couple quick screenshots of some of the things that we just mentioned there. And I think might be the last one on this, at least for now. This is the global SEO strategist for IBM. Here's what he had to say recently. With recent enhancements to Google's algorithm in the way of BERT and MUM, those are updates to Google. No, I'm not going to get into them right now. It's just too much information. You can look them up if you want, though. He says, I think it's time to focus on the quality of the content and the site structure. He says, content has always been a focus of SEO, but with these updates, it's going to be easier for an SEO professional to speak to the quality of content being something that needs to be focused on. This especially applies to sites that tend to have more content that focuses on marketing, just jargon. He says, as the algorithms grow smarter and they process in how they process content, it's going to be more and more crucial to cut down on the fluff and get straight to the point. Super important. So I'm gonna stop yapping about the importance of just high quality pages for now, but there may be a little bit more, we'll see. So here's the next one though, websites and actually pages. And I know I mentioned this about 10-20 minutes ago. They need to have authority. They need to have lots of backlinks, quality and quantity backlinks coming in. So when it comes to backlinks, and this is what our agency is seeing, we see that they're still really important, and they lead to a website having, or more specifically, web pages of a website having authority. And Google is still using this as a major ranking factor. A study that came out a couple of years ago said this is the #1 correlating ranking factor to who shows up in what order in the organic search results. So in other words, if David has a website and it has 100 backlinks, and they're high quality backlinks, and we'll pretend that I'm a competitor, which I'm not. But if I'm next door to David and my business, same industry, I only have 20 backlinks, David's going to probably show up above me in the search results. Super, super important. This is one of those, there's a couple of things that a couple times I'm going to say it in this webinar. If you're only going to get one thing out of this, this should probably be it. Know that you want to get a lot of quality, quantity backlinks. Okay. It's still important. This is just another quick screenshot of the SEO software we use. This is with In-N-Out Burger, inandout.com, just showing the strength of their backlinks right here. And this is kind of the first thing that you see when you open up the SEO software for inandout.com. You can see how many backlinks they have, a mere 265,000. In the last week, I've only gained 529. And I'm laughing because that's just like, that's a lot. But their URL rating for a specific page, and then their domain rating for a specific page. So are those metrics unique to Ahrefs? Yes. And are they from Google? No, but they're a great best guess based on the data that's out there, and pretty stinking good. Very, very useful. So you want those numbers to climb. You want to be getting quality and quantity backlinks. So we are seeing at our agency that it's harder nowadays. And I almost felt like when I said this, like, well, why is he mentioning it if it's always been a thing? Well, here's why. It's changing. It changed majorly last year. It's a lot harder now to get those quality backlinks. Link building is still important, very, very important. It just looks different in 2022 from 1 year ago. It's totally different from 1 year ago. And here's why. Google rolled something out on July 26th, 2021, and it rocked our world. And it was called the Google Link Spam Algorithm Update. I know, sounds like Greek, sounds very boring, but this was catastrophic to so many websites, because what it did was it said this was Google saying, we want to tighten things up on the authority that's passed from one link to your website. You know, let's say you have 100 links pointing to your website. If 30 or 40 of them we don't like, we think that you probably shouldn't have got those links. We're not gonna penalize you for it, but we're gonna take away that authority that we were giving you previously. So they tightened up the rules on what sites, what backlinks pass authority or link equity over to you. Why does that matter? Well, I don't know about you guys, but we had clients where they want a new backlink. They want multiple new backlinks almost every day because they're just trying to rack them up. And so things are being done like going onto forums and adding a sentence saying, hey, check out this, you know, and adding a link to their website and counting that, okay, we got our backlink for the day. Doing things like that every single day. And if they have hundreds or thousands of those, and all of a sudden in one algorithm update, poof, all that authority is wiped away, and you better believe that they're going to see a major change in the organic traffic that comes to their website starting July 27th. Yikes. And so, and I should also say that with that, you're also, another thing that you're going to see is a decrease in the number of sites that are quick, easy, free backlink websites. Those were everywhere. Those are, unless they're late to, unless they're like, you know, what is it, living under a rock and they don't know about this update, they're probably gone by now because they're totally useless. We're also seeing in that regard that if sites have a lot of backlinks already, some of our clients have a lot of really legit backlinks, like the one from that got that backlink from the channel on TV, for example. They have lots of great backlinks. They're actually pretty well known. It's going to be really, really good if they now focus on SEO keyword research. SEO keyword research is still huge. It's still very relevant, and they have all that authority, but the SEO keyword research kind of fine tunes what they're going to start to show up in those search engines for. Okay. So sites with a lot of authority, they do great with SEO keyword research if they do it right. But sites that don't have any authority yet, so I can't tell you how often we get asked to do SEO, a pretty good amount. And a lot of times it's by people that have no idea what they're talking about with SEO. And they go, I just want you to do the SEO keyword research. And it's like, yeah, but you don't have any backlinks yet. So if you don't have the authority to compete with other sites in the search engines, that's not the right order to do things, right? It's kind of like if you're building a house, you need to have a real strong foundation before you put the walls up first, right? So websites that are new to SEO, in my humble opinion, they really ought to understand that obtaining high quality backlinks that are relevant should be one of the most important things they focus on in SEO. And if they have that authority, then they can now see fruit if they decide to do SEO keyword research and optimize specific pages. We're seeing pages that are optimized properly for a particular search term. Oftentimes what we'll see is they'll grow by 2 to 10x from their organic traffic. So for some of you, that's going to mean a great deal, and others that might not be that big of a thing. Okay. Let's see here. I know a question just came in, but if we can hold that, and then we'll circle back soon. So getting in publications, getting in articles, high quality websites, yeah, it can be hard stuff. It's not complicated, but it can be challenging. That is really going to move the needle. It'll give you authority. So those are a lot of the things that I personally had to say in regards to SEO now versus 1 year ago, how it's changed, what we're seeing in the trenches. Now, here are some things that other SEO professionals had to say in regards to SEO in 2022. So this is like the last 25% of our webinar. Sometimes people go, how much longer? So if you're one of those folks, know that we're probably right around the 3/4 of the way through mark. So the importance of new search engine results page features. This is a very important thing nowadays. The director of SEO for Shopify, he had to say this in this regard. He said, the search results, and this is what's new for 2022, they've become incredibly rich in features that significantly impact the click-through rates. And I'm going to pause there. What does that mean? If you're not already tracking with me, why don't you picture this? You search for, I'll look for something in the office here. Maybe like a remote starter for a Jeep, right? And maybe mine's broken and I need a new one or something like that. And I search for Jeep, Grand Cherokee, remote starter. Now, 5-10 years ago, it's all organic results, right? I mean, it's mostly just plain text, plain text, plain text. Nowadays, you have ads on the top, ads on the right. You have local search pack. Users also search for, frequently asked questions. You have ads on the bottom, and it's like, well, wait a minute now. Where are the actual organic results? They're kind of buried 3/4 of the way through that page, depending on what device you're on and what you're searching for. But what we're saying here is, or what he's saying here is, man, it's getting hard to show up there. So you need to be able to measure or spot opportunities to predict success. You can't just go, well, we want to rank in the first top 10 positions for this search term. Well, have you even searched for that search term? Do you even know what's out there for that search term? Because if it's images, maybe you want to think about winning in that part of the search engine results pages, not the organic listings down below, if that makes sense. So here's another one. Greater SEO success comes by aligning, and this is along the same topic of new search engine results page features. So same topic, but greater SEO success comes by aligning strategies with the way people currently use the web. When a potential customer Googles something, they don't see the organic channels, just what I was just saying. They see ads, they see videos, they see these enhanced search features now. And the traditional organic listings now, now there's like an endless scroll on mobile devices. So looking at what happens when you search for something and then optimizing for that, that's going to help you. And so they go on to say that everybody's analyzing, when everybody is analyzing the search engine results pages to define users' intent, got to ask yourself, is Google showing us which results match their intent? Or are marketers regurgitating the same content over and over again? Like, how can you compete with what's actually on page 1 of what you're searching for? I'll just say that instead of reading all this. I'll cut to the chase. See what's on the search engine results pages for what you're going for and seeing if you compete. If not, you're going to need to go for something a little bit more long tail. Okay, next topic, the importance of eat. This is another one, kind of like nap and eat. Hey, these are things that I like. I think they're trying to speak to me. Two things that Zach likes, eating and naps. No, but this is an acronym that Google came out with. Expertise, authority, and trust. And if you look at what Google says that they want you to have, I mean, they have their own quality guidelines. It's like I think hundreds of page document on how do they define quality and like what should you be aiming for in terms of the pages on your website. If any of you are having a hard time sleeping, that might be a good thing to read right before bed. It's a lot of content, but really good content too. But eat. They want you to have eat, and you'll see them talking about this, and you'll see SEO experts talking about this more and more. The founder of Local SEO Guide, who we mentioned a couple times earlier, refers to eat as content usefulness, and I think that's a little bit more approachable. And they say the challenge we have always had with EAT is, and not that EAT has been around that long as a term, but it's hard to measure that. So they came up with their own metric called content usefulness, which they can measure. For example, we see the types of pages and content ranking for a large set of related queries, and they can analyze the pages at scale and compare them to our site's pages. And the difference between the ranking pages and those that don't rank, they're going to see that a specific type of content, so maybe like reviews content or phone numbers, things like that, they can illustrate what the content that the searchers and therefore Google will deem useful. This is almost too complicated to add in here, but I wanted to include it. But figuring out the stuff that means things to users, and if you can use data like they did to figure that out and then apply it to their site, apply it to your site. He said, that's not going to be an SEO trend for 2022. That's going to be an SEO thing for the foreseeable future. Figure out what users want and try to cater to them. That's going to be good for them, and it's going to be good for Google at the same time. Kevin Rowe, founder of PureLink, he believes that the growing importance of EAT will be a trend in 2022. He says, hey, no matter your approach to SEO, understand how to demonstrate the appropriate level of EAT in your on-site content, your link building, your online PR, even your technical SEO. He said that doesn't mean you need to have a doctorate to be an expert on, maybe you're on a shoe repair blog. I mean, let's get back down to planet Earth here. Maybe that's what you're writing for. I mean, I used to do SEO stuff for a shoe site, so that actually hits home for me. You don't need to have your doctorate on shoe repair to be a shoe repair blogger. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but at least hiring a subject matter expert or someone that's producing, editing, consulting on content, he's seeing that's no longer optional. If you just have, some random person in your office, someone that has no passion for this, who's just going to steal content from somewhere else and regurgitate it, that's not going to help you. So he recommends at the very least that marketers hire writers with a passion for the subject matter that they're writing for. So one final takeaway would be this, and I think if you are, if you're in the boat of, hey, Zach, I just felt like I just sat in front of a fire hose, this is just too much to take in, then this is what I would say. This is a long but simple, down-to-earth quote that I do think that you would really benefit from, okay? So this is from the brand ambassador of Ahrefs, who we've mentioned a couple of times here, in regards to what's big for 2022. And this is not a technical answer at all. I actually love what he's saying here to a degree, absolutely. He says, here's what I think people need to hear. Ignore the trends. I know, it's like, what? Did he just say that? And part of me doesn't like that. Part of me is like, wait, but you got to know what's going on. And so I think to a degree, but I also think what he's saying is really important here. He says SEO professionals will have more success just focusing on the basics, and that mostly involves content and links. If you're just going to focus on two things, make it content and links. Write or record content that matches what people are searching for and covers the topic very well. Add expert insights, link to and get links from other pages on your site, and promote your content. The formula for success has been the same for a while now. And he's saying, we saw this thing, we saw that thing. I'm just not going to get into the particulars. We saw this change, we saw that change, and just kind of zooming past that just to keep this simple. He's saying those, for some sites, those are important because they have those specific issues, but most people are, I'm reading the very bottom here, most people will not see much impact from those things, and they can easily become time sinks. So the same way, same story has played out for years, people chasing trends, and he's like, I'm telling you, don't do it. He said, I see several trends continuing into the next year, But again, I don't know if they're really useful for the majority of SEO professionals. Automated content is just another one. I'm not going to get into it. He's saying that's not going to be, again, it can be a time sink. And here are a bunch of other things. He thinks that they're going to be time sinks. He's saying, unless there's something, I'm going to the bottom here, unless there's something, unless something is a particular issue for your site and you need to work on it, ignore the trends, get back to the basics, and look for other opportunities to observe your, to improve your site. Why did we include that? Part of me thinks, man, this is contrary to a lot of the stuff that we just said. In a way, yes. In my opinion, it's not that he's right and the others are wrong. It's that that stuff needs to be the emphasis if you're going to be working on SEO as an SEO professional or just as a website owner. Those other things, I think they matter, but this is the most important thing. Like if you're going to be someone who's a shoemaker, you can't sit there and focus on the trends of the colors when you never even knew how to attach the sole to the top of the shoe, right? like you need to know the basics before we get into like the little details, right? So I wanted to leave you with that. I know we covered a lot here. Thanks for your patience. If you have any questions, we definitely have time, I think, to take some of them.
We do. Before we do that, I'll give you a chance to take a sip of water or something there.
Yeah.
I put in a link. This link is to a survey. We always ask in our webinars that you fill out a survey, tell us how we did. We have thick skin, we can take it, it's how we improve. And it also gives you an opportunity to let us know any topics that you might have interest in the future. And you know, SBDCs, we have a lot of expertise. So if we have a subject matter expert, it might make sense to have them do a webinar on a topic that you're looking for. So please click on that link and tell us how we did. Question we have, Zach, is there a difference between backlinks and interlinking on a website?
Yeah, I saw that question come in, and the only reason why, and thanks for chiming in, guys. The only reason why I didn't address that right on the spot was I felt like I would need to ask you a little bit more about that. So can you tell me what you mean by interlinking, with websites? Are you just talking about trading links, where, you're linking to a site and they're linking back to you? Or are you talking about links within your site where you're linking from one page to another page in your site?
While we're waiting for Elizabeth, okay, well, she says, like if you write a blog and you link to a previous blogs or other pages on the site.
Yeah. Okay. So those links are also very, very helpful to search engines. And yes, that can be a ranking factor. Those are internal links. So you're linking to yourself there. But when we talk about backlinks or link building, we're not talking about internal links. We're talking about external links. And so that would be, let's say, you do have a shoe repair store website, and you're in the city of Reading, and you happen to get a link from visitreading.com. They happen to mention you in an article. They say, hey, by the way, if you need your shoe repaired, go to let's see here. Go to sorry, I lost your name. Is it okay? Go to Elizabeth. Sorry, Elizabeth. That took a while. Go to Elizabeth's Shoe Repair on Main Street. And like if they linked to you, that would be an external link, and that would pass over link equity. And that would be a real good signal to search engines, in addition to being good for people who just are reading that article, go, oh, yeah, I need a shoe repair. I'm going to click that. So good for users, very good for search engines. Cool.
Okay. Any advice on how to price? Oh, yeah, here we go. Any advice on how to price SEO implementation and projecting impact on revenue?
Wow, that's a big question. I'll give you a Reader's Digest condensed answer to that. We've seen a couple different models to that, and it really depends on who you're working with, how much expertise you have, who your clients are, what their budgets are, what your needs are, and things like that. one model that I'm seeing is where it's a flat rate monthly SEO fee, where they say, okay, for $5.99.99 a month, you're going to get these 12 things. And I've seen that. And Michael, to be honest with you, anytime I've seen that, they're farming it out to people in third world countries. And I have nothing against people in third world countries, but are those people in third world countries, are they doing it just because it's the most profitable for them? Probably. And are those people in third world countries reading up on the latest news with Google? Maybe not. But if those people are, I don't want to say don't ever work with somebody in other, not at all. I actually work with people in other countries every week, but I don't farm work out to them. Regardless, I'm saying it is possible to farm work out like that and get good results, but I don't know that I would let them steer the ship. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to hire workout that's really cheap, I would make sure that they're giving you something that's actually really moving the needle and really helpful to you. Like, are you getting high quality links for us? Probably not. Or are you writing really, really good content for us? Probably not if English isn't your first language and you're not passionate about this particular subject matter. But maybe, I haven't seen anything really good happen with that. The other model I've seen with SEO pricing can get kind of expensive. And that would be on an hourly basis. And it's like, okay, our hourly rate is blank. You agree to an ongoing relationship of, hey, we're going to cap it to, 20 hours per month or 50 hours per month or 10 hours, whatever it is. I probably wouldn't recommend going less than 10, even 10 is kind of light. But I would say at least 20 hours a month is a good starting point. And then saying, hey, this is what we charge. And if you would like, we can spend more time, or if we need to cut back, we can cut back. We'll bill you once a month for the hours that we actually use. That's the model that our agency uses. To me, that makes the most sense because sometimes you need to ramp things up. Sometimes the business wants to take things down a little bit or vice versa, and so it's nice and fluid. It allows you to put the hours into what needs hours. Sometimes hours need to go into like fixing things, or hours need to go into writing like 300 meta and title tags. Sometimes it's like, no, we're only going to do SEO keyword research, or sometimes it's no, we're only going to try to do link building, or a mix. And then how do you work in reporting? Because reporting, I don't know about you, but it usually takes me an hour or two a month per client to do it properly and to break it down and to be able to answer any questions that they have. So I think that's the approach that makes the most sense. In terms of projecting impact on revenue, that's tricky because some people are going to go, well, we want a guarantee of, do you have any kind of guarantees? Well, the only kind of companies I've ever seen that make those kind of guarantees are, if you're really in the trenches, an SEO professional, it's like read the fine print, and the guarantees are like ridiculous and kind of useless. But what you can do is you can share data brags. What does that mean? Well, you can share like, hey, I can't promise you that if we do this, that you'll see this, but here's a case study that we did for Elizabeth shoe repair. And we saw an increase of organic search traffic between 2 and 10x on every single page that we did SEO keyword research for, or whatever it is. And if you have the stats and the data to back it up, you can say, we're hoping that we can achieve something like that for you. I can't speak for other businesses, but that's what our business would do if someone were to ask that. So that's kind of a long answer. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions. Well, Michael says, okay, thanks for the detailed answer. So that's
You bet.
We are going to, just a reminder, we'll be sending you a link to the video, and we will be sending you copies of the slides. And if you have any specific questions about any of this good stuff, you're welcome to email us, but it might even make more sense for you to contact the SPDC near you. We have a couple of links on the next slide, I think. Do you, Zach?
Let's see
I'm
here.
Sure.
Yeah, wrap up.
There's a
Covered. We already know what we covered.
We know what we covered.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. These are links to obviously to our site, our pages, things like that. feel free to send us a question if you'd like. But if there's an SBDC, there is an SBDC near you if you're in the U.S. Contact your local one. You'll be able to get a much better answer, more detailed, and maybe more appropriate to where the specific location is. So yeah, beyond that, people think you're outstanding, Zach.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks so much for your attention. I know that was a lot of information. I almost presented it apologetically, like, oh, I hope this isn't overwhelming, but it sounds like you guys got some stuff out of this. So that's great. But yeah, feel free to reach out. I'd love to connect with anybody that wants to connect. And yeah. Okay. Anything else, David?
I don't think so. I think we can, we told people we'd be doing this till 11. So if you told your boss you were doing this till 11, you've got 25 minutes or so.
Now you can try all three of those burgers, right?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you joining. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.